Welcome to Café y Chisme. I'm Ivan, and I'm here with
Myra,
Franco,
and Vicky.
Brew your coffee and join us in today's Chisme.
Ding.
Right on cue, Maya.
Yeah, we have landed. Welcome, listeners, to today's episode. We'll talk about traveling experiences that we've shared as couples and any tips that we might have. So,
Yeah, this one's a fun one. I'm excited about this one.
sweet. So, I'll let you start it off.
All right. I mean, we've traveled to a lot of places, I would say. What would you say is your favorite place that we visited?
I think Europe and Hawaii has been my favorites.
I think I would say the same. Paris was probably one of my favorites. I mean, there's just the whole vibe like there was awesome.
The architect. The Eiffel Tower at night.
Yeah, just the people, being able to try different foods and things like that. I think that was really fun.
What was y'all's favorite?
I think Colorado has
Definitely
been our favorite
Colorado.
lately. We haven't traveled internationally together yet. We are planning to next year, so we have big plans there. But as far as like here domestically, Colorado is just beautiful. Our first trip together, I want to say, right? It was our first big trip. We
Yes.
took our pup Dalek with us in a car ride all the way from Texas to Colorado.
Man.
So that was a trip. We can definitely talk about tips and tricks with pets there and just packing and preparing and all of that. But I think that's my favorite because the views were gorgeous. Being out there in nature, just really a good disconnect. And then it was like a really deep connection for you and I think, in that environment.
Absolutely. I definitely enjoyed Colorado. That was it's honestly one of my favorite states besides the one we live in, Texas. But I would also say that one of my most memorable ones is Arkansas.
Oh, yes.
It was like a 6-hour drive from where we lived. And it was really cool, kind of piggybacking on the previous episode about detoxing. Right there at the end, we lost cell service for 2 days. We didn't have cell service for 2 days. We had no idea what to do, but all we did was just hike, spend time together. We would sit out in nature. Like, we brought folding chairs, a table. We set up our little mate station, and we just had a good time. It was literally you, me, and Dalek. And it was memorable because that dog is so spoiled. I swear he can't handle nature.
No, that's when we learned that Dalek has very high standards when it comes to the bed night situation. And he was just not having the outdoors. Like, that just was not his vibe. We can definitely do a little story time there at some point because that was a funny trip. And then the other one, I think we did Seattle, Washington, right?
We did. That was I want to say that was the second trip that we took out of the state. It was probably December of 2020, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, December of 2020. We traveled with a couple, another couple friends that we just went to Seattle, Washington, spent like 5 days there, I think.
Something like that.
There was no itinerary, so that was interesting. Rented our first vehicle together as a couple. That was an interesting argument that we had. I learned that was when I learned about, like, if you can only transfer money from your checking to a credit card, one time per day. I had no idea. I've never done it. So when I only transferred like $100, you were like, dude, what did you do? And it was like, what do you mean, what did I do? Can't I transfer more? And you were like, no, you can only do it once every 24 hours. So I learned something there. But yeah, no, that was fun too, because Washington was wet all the time.
Very different environment, atmosphere there.
Yeah.
So if you're not like into rain and gloominess, that's not your vibe, I just wouldn't recommend that. But I would just definitely say it's a cool place to go check out. They're very the food was so good. I cannot remember the name of this little restaurant to save my life, but this is a restaurant had amazing like pizzas made from scratch there, and they served Fernet with Coke, which is like not easy to come by.
No, it's becoming more popular, believe it or not. Like we find it in the liquor stores here nearby. And it's definitely an acquired taste. So if you are looking for a bitter drink with a little bit of sweetness, Fernet and Coke. Another place that we drove to was Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
We took a 22-hour drive, 22 to 24 hours. It took us a little bit because we stopped to sleep, but we did, man, we went across all the states. We went all the way up to Tennessee, and from Tennessee we went north. It was wild.
And all of these trips, except for the Washington one, Dalek accompanied us on all of these trips.
Of course.
So we'll definitely have to talk about pets here in a minute.
Yeah.
What are some like tips and tricks, you guys?
I mean, there's a lot, because we've traveled like before kids, and we've traveled obviously with kids. We've traveled domestic a lot and international. But I would say,
I think for me, it's like staying organized. If you have to buy the packing cubes, if you have to buy like what you need to like stay organized on your trip, don't overpack. A lot of the mistakes that we make a lot of times is like, oh, I haven't worn this top in a year, but I'm gonna go take it on vacation, and then you never wear it. I think it's smart to plan your outfits ahead of time, with a few extras, right? In case, just in case. And then also like something that takes up a lot of room is shoes. So taking like a pair or two that you can wear with everything, I think is important. And then just take what you need. And also what helped us, like when we were in Europe, we found what's equivalent to Walmart, that was by where we were staying. So we knew that if we forgot something or we needed more diapers because we had Christian, that we could go and get it if we forgot something or needed something.
Yeah, we're like really strategic on how we packed, like what we were going to take, knowing that we could go over there and like find somewhere to buy some of those extra things. So I would say like the folding, like we rolled up our clothes
we each had
in
a
the
packing
suitcase.
Cube. Like he had blue, I had black, and Christian had like a turquoise color, or we each had different colors, and that helped us because we were in London 2 days, and then we flew in to Paris, and we were there 2 days, and then we flew to Barcelona, and we were there for 2 days. So we needed something that was easy to pack up our clothes and like know where everything was, because we were having to travel every like 2 days.
Yeah, it was like 2 days, fly, 2 days, fly, long flight home. But what I did like is how quick, like we're to just in the fly, just be like, oh, we need this. We're able to like find stores or find like food places where we could get some of those things. I was really impressed with that. It was like Walmart, but like it was like a really fancy. Was that in Europe?
It was in London.
In London. I don't know why I thought that was in Paris for some reason.
No, that's Tarjay.
Yeah, Tarjay.
And one of the things that worked for us, a good tip that worked for us was, like the diapers. Our son was one at the time, and it takes a lot of room in our luggage or in his luggage. We had a luggage and then he had one. But diapers, I took as many diapers as I would need throughout the whole trip. And so you're constantly getting rid of them, right? Because he's using them.
Yes.
So it's leaving space in your bag. But I didn't have to worry about him not having diapers wherever we went.
How did you calculate how many diapers?
So like I know like how many he would go through a day here.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you add extras just in case. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I would just count like how many he uses here normally, how many times I change him, and then
just multiply that out on the trip.
Yeah, we just kind of trusted that, hey, they should have a place for like babies, like,
yes,
where people can purchase diapers and stuff like that. So we trusted that. And yeah, I mean, we were able to find everything we were able to, or what we needed. So
this brings to my question that I have right now. It's how good are you guys at pre-planning? Because these trips that we talked about, we had like zero preparation. I would say, well, maybe some preparation.
I kind of disagree, but
I know.
We'll get back to that.
That's why I want to get back to it, because I'm saying like the Washington trip, we knew where we were staying. We knew we needed a rental vehicle. We got the rental vehicle upon arriving, but we didn't have an itinerary of sorts. Like, here's where we're going to go. Here's what we're going to do. We just kind of did. With Colorado, it was a family trip. So we had like a central point, but it wasn't like, hey, this day we're going to do this. This day we're going to do that. We're going to go see this. We're going to see that. It was very spontaneous. Arkansas was a spontaneous trip. We didn't really know what we were going to do. When we traveled to Pennsylvania, it was very spontaneous due to other reasons, but it was very spontaneous. So I feel like we don't really, from my perspective, we don't really plan well.
Okay, I do want to elaborate. So like, we don't plan all the details of what's happening in that trip, but we are big planners for the trip. So we're very prepared, like just to kind of go through some steps, because I'm a huge planner. So I like to know well in advance when we're anticipating to travel, because you and I, we work so much that we really need a major heads up so that we can take that time off, because we're big about actually disconnecting. We don't like to be on a trip and be working. And so always making sure, look, this is the plan. This is when we're going to do it. And then we commit to those dates. Like, that's it. Like, that's when we're going. Because once you commit to the dates, then everything else is easier to plan. So during that time, what things need to be taken care of at home is what we think about first. Is there anything do plants need to be watered? We have a fish. His name's Draco. He needs to be fed. So we've decided, we used to ask a friend to just go feed him, but then we did research and there's automatic feeders for fish. So we just set an automatic feeder, and it can automatic feed for like up to a couple weeks, actually. You just leave it on and it just does its thing. So there's one tip for people with fish at home. And then we think about, I guess the next thing in the planning is, look to see like what your options are for like your lodging and how you're going to travel. Those are the biggest expenses. So sometimes, you can decide these are the dates we're going to go based off the prices that we found for the travel, whether you're going by car or plane, right? That could be what, deciding factor. The other way could be, these are the only days I can go. So I'm just going to have to find what's available, and I'm going to try to find the best deal. So we do that. We definitely narrow down. I would say when you're traveling with friends, because we did a lot of trips with friends or other individuals that are involved. I'm really big with like Google Sheets and like tracking. I put the names, I share the sheet with you. This is what everything is going to cost. We are going to put this on so-and-so's, you can put things on a credit card if you want, because you can kind of protect yourself. So if you're the one friend in the group that's willing to do that, just, list everybody out, hold everybody responsible, let people know, give everybody a deadline. before the payments actually due, and then process everything in time. And then also a lot of budget, like, hey, this is what we're all going to need to eat when we're like, for example, our Seattle, Washington, that was like friends like getting together and we were traveling out there. So, hey, we're going to need about this much to eat and hang out and do whatever, you know? And so we just all made sure that we had those amounts saved before we made our way out there. Right. And then it's just thinking about the people that are traveling, like, what are your needs, right? You and I are so spontaneous that we are really like, we've traveled so much that we know what kind of clothes and how to like reuse, like we know all those things. I would say I'll elaborate on Dalek real quick. With Dalek, with him being a pet, it's my biggest thing with him is comfort, especially like with it being a car trip. Like pets are like, you know, are just like anybody, right? You don't, you know, you can only sit still for so long. And so I try to definitely make sure that he's comfortable. Like I level out the whole section in the back of the vehicle. And so like if you have a car, you know, it dips right in front of the seat. So I will fill that up, whether it's with like luggage or whatever. And then I'll put like a flat blanket to like really flatten it out so that he can walk around, he can lay down, sit down, whatever he needs to do.
Until he comes up to the front.
And he has done that. Should not be doing, but it has happened. And so then making sure that he has like open space for a long car ride. As far as packing for him, I make sure that, so we actually bought a bag. It's a travel bag for pets. And it has like the silicone plates that are like expandable. And it has baggies inside with, you know, that you can put his dog food and you measure it out. And so each baggie is X amount of days. It's essentially like a day and a half in each bag. And then there's a little, like a mini emergency first aid kit for pets. You guys are looking at me like I'm probably a little crazy, but
no, my sister has
serious.
that. No, my sister has that too. So I know.
I mean, and like making sure he has enough food for the whole trip, making sure he's got all his needs. If your dog is taking any medications, make sure you take those along. And then just having an emergency vet. We're very fortunate that we have a 24/7 emergency vet that Dalit goes to, and we can always call even if we're away, you know, and just have them help us, guide us, and if anything happens, right? Same for, you know, and you have to kind of apply that same planning for yourselves. We're definitely making sure that, you know, we're taking care of ourselves, whatever we need. If we're taking any medicine, vitamins, whatever, make sure you bring those along. If you, for example, like if you have anything that's supposed to be happening during that week that you need to take care of virtually, like set a reminder on your calendar, make your life easier, so that you can go and enjoy your trip. So I definitely dived into like the pets for the most part, but I know you guys have probably some other tips and tricks.
Well, I think when we travel together, just us, it's like we pack and we're like, you know, we're able to like, we're more flexible, right? Like if you forgot something or like you just do without, or you find ways to make it work, right? With kids, yes, we do plan more often because we have a kid who's a very picky eater. So we have to make sure we pack his stuff. And then our other kid, like, will eat anywhere where we eat and everything like that. So we don't have to worry on that end, but we do have to pack like certain foods for one of our kids. And so, and to like, I'll give you an example. Like we have done a lot of travel through like the all-inclusive, like Groupon, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so some of them, you know, we're like, oh, well, if it's sketch or whatever, then it's just us two. And we have done it once with a kid, and they've all worked out for us. When we did go, we've always heard really bad things about this airline, and we went on it on our honeymoon, and we had a good experience on it. But we probably wouldn't fly that with our kids because we don't want to risk. We don't want to risk anything happening. We're not being accommodating or whatever, but yeah, we just plan a little bit more, a little bit better. And then when you travel with kids, you just have little to no expectations because you never know. You never know if you're going to have to, you can't just go all day. You have to make sure that they eat at certain times, that they, but they have accommodations, you know, that they take a nap. They can't go all day exploring or, we can't just do whatever we want to do at all times. So
yeah, I think like with kids, I've learned that there's no such thing as an itinerary, like at all. Just because, like I didn't realize this whenever we got to Europe, and like I like the car seat situation. Where was it? Was it London or like the kids drive without car seats? Like,
so
I didn't know
London,
that.
yeah,
London and Paris,
and Paris,
we didn't need
no car seats.
Like you're in the Uber, you don't need car seats.
Right.
And so we just held them the whole time. But when we went to Barcelona, we needed a car seat. So we traveled one, we read about it before, but we took one just in case. Cause I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Or that's, you know, different. And so we took it, but we didn't use it till we got to Barcelona and rented our own car.
Well, I didn't know about that in London. Like I didn't know. Like whenever I got there, and I'm like, hey, like to the Uber, I'm like, where do I put this car seat? It's like, oh, we don't have car seats here. And I'm like, oh, okay, so your kid's just gonna get in an accident and fly out.
How does the check-in for a car seat work? At like
it's separate.
Airplane?
It's separate.
What do you mean? We check it
The
in.
check-in.
You just check it
in
in
with
like,
baggage. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
do they
you check
charge
it in
you
with the
extra for
baggage.
it?
No,
or-
so that and strollers are free, and we bought our own bag for it, and it's like a backpack. Like you put the car seat in
Nice.
this bag, and then you carry it on your
So
bag.
here I am carrying like this humongous like car seat. Like it was a backpack, and Myra's gonna show you guys like the picture of it while I'm carrying like 2 luggage
Oh
sets,
my
like
gosh.
ridiculous stuff, and I have a backpack like in front.
Oh
so
my gosh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that was whenever we're going to Hawaii there, right?
No, I thought
I'm
it
not
was
sure.
Europe. That
I
was
don't know. It
Europe.
just feels like everywhere I
Guys,
do the
those
same thing.
bags combined are
No,
like
that was Hawaii.
bigger than
Yeah.
one.
So it's like,
Yep.
you know, like you're
That
taking
was Hawaii.
all these things.
It looks sketch, bro. It looks like you're carrying. I don't know what you're carrying there, but it looks sketch.
What else? I mean, the other part of it was the strollers. That little cover, like stroller cover for rain, came in clutch because whenever we got to Heathrow in London, like it was nonstop raining. I do want to do London over again because I feel that we didn't get to do what we wanted there because it was just raining the entire time. But here we are, and I think just kind of going back to like no itineraries, like you in London, it kind of reminded me of New York because you're riding these little trains to different places. And here I am with the stroller. Like, luckily, I think London did have like little elevators specifically for like strollers and stuff like that. So that was interesting. We missed exits. We didn't care. Like, we're like, okay, we'll just figure out like how to get back. So it was just like we were stress free, like knowing that, okay, like we're just going to figure it out. But the stroller, it makes me laugh because the whole stroller situation, we carried like the stroller and it was heavy because we had stuff under it too. And Myra and I were like carrying this stroller like 3 flights of stairs, like with Christian in it. It was just funny.
Well, because in London, they do have like elevators, right? But in Paris, they don't. Like, they don't have it for like the metro or whatever. They don't have
That's right.
any way to go
Yeah,
up.
you had
So
to carry up
we had to carry him all the way up.
Yep.
What was it? We
Oh
also
my
carried him
God.
up all the stairs of like
Carried him
a
to
lot of the stairs
the
of
Arc de
the
Triomphe. I carried him all the way up to the Eiffel Tower, like all the way up.
Most of Europe
my
is
God.
like that,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, it was like, it was a lot, but it was fun.
I learned my first hard lesson about not overpacking after my first trip to Europe. I was in college, and you know me, my first time traveling and out of the country, and I'm going to take all these cute outfits, yada, yada, yada. You guys, I had to carry all my own weight, and that is very eye-opening. No. So ever since then, I try to travel as light as I can. If I'm on my own, which I'm no longer, but if you're on your own, highly suggest try to pack everything in one backpack, especially if you're doing Europe. You will thank me later, but you will find that because in Europe, the modes of transportation are very like you're either walking, you're using, train, metro, etc. Yeah. You're having to carry all this stuff with you. And when you're traveling abroad, you don't want to leave valuables in the hotel. So you carry it with you everywhere you go. And if it's going to be a load on you, be ready to be sore and not enjoy your trip to the fullest. And then that really applies like anywhere you go. I find like if you pack as light as you can, you're going to enjoy your trip and there's less for you to remember. I find that like it's so easy to forget things when you're like traveling abroad, because you're worried about what, how am I supposed to get from here to there because you don't know the area, you're not familiar. And so another tip is travel with, the necessities, but don't travel with like, if you need sunglasses, take sunglasses, but don't take your $200 sunglasses, take some like $10 sunglasses in case you lose them, it's just a $10 that you lost. Right. With clothes, like I used to think like, oh, I want to look my best for the pictures and this, that, and the other. Really, it's all about like versatility. If I take this one pair of shorts, instead of taking like 5 pairs of shorts for 5 days, I'm going to take one. And how many different shirts can I make this into multiple different outfits so that there's less in this bag? Really just traveling light goes a long way. And I think you can apply that to like families too. Cause I'm just sitting here thinking about you guys, like all the stuff you had to carry and up and down and, you're right. Like down the stairways. And then when you're at a restaurant, there's not a lot of space in Europe too. Like there's just no space anywhere, it seems like. And so you feel very like, constrained. Even the hotel rooms, I was surprised to see that what I thought was a small hotel room here, and granted, we're in Texas, everything's bigger in Texas, but a hotel room in Europe is like teeny tiny. I almost just couldn't believe like it was a hotel room for like 2 people to like sleep there, but it is small. Yes. So take that into consideration. Do not overbook. Don't think four friends, you and 3 other friends are going to sleep fine in a hotel in Europe. No. It's totally different.
No, and you have to think about the plugs. They have different plugs than we do. So you have to be prepared for that.
Get that international plug that switches over. Make sure it works. Plug it in.
In London, I asked for a fan and they looked at me crazy, like at the hotel. Like it was like kind of warm, like in that hotel. And they're like, oh, everything's temperature controlled. I was like, what?
Yeah, they don't have like AC.
They don't have AC. Mm-hmm. So it was hot. And I'm like, do you guys have like a fan or something? And they're like, yes, let me go in the back. And he pulled out this small fan. And I was like, well, you're at it. Can I have an ironing board? He comes out and legit, it's this 1 foot, like ironing board. Like literally, it's like a TV tray. Like you put it in front of your lap and it's like 1 foot. And he pulls out a little iron thing like that. I'm like, man. But it also helps you understand like how different it is. Like you said, like we learned that too, because I set everything up through Groupon. You just got to read the fine print to make sure everything's all inclusive with flight included. Because if you book it and the flight's not included, you're screwed. But we went to the hotels that we had booked through Groupon. And in Paris, we were like, what is this?
Well, in our defense, they tried to pull a fast one on us. We had booked, what was booked, it was included, was like a bedroom with 2 queen size beds. And when we got there, they saw that we were just us two and a baby. So they're like, oh, we can put them in this small room and sell that room for much more. So we were happy that we did it through Groupon because we had like an agent, right? So we had to sleep in that small little room one night, but he contacted the agent and she called them and was like, no, like this is what was booked. Like you need to give them that. And so the next morning they moved us to the bigger room.
I was like, hey, like your peeps over here trying to give us Maria la del Barrio room over here. Like y'all need to fix this. And I immediately started looking at like, where's the Marriott? Where's like freaking the Hilton? And I'm like, let's just look at that. Like I was like thinking it was gonna cost like $150 or $200, and I'm like, I'm looking up prices, and it was like $3,000. I'm like, what? So like, no, we'll stay here. I guess that's fine.
And everything was booked, but it was Fashion Week too, so that's probably why.
Oh yeah, it was insane. I mean. But I mean, they were all fun experiences. I mean, just that, you know, like it was really fun. It was hard work. Like those of you guys that have kids, like it's doable. Like do not travel because you have a kid. It's definitely doable. It just looks different. How you pack, how you approach. You cannot have the expectation that something's going to go perfect because it's not. Don't have an itinerary. You can do research on things that you would like to do, and it's okay that you don't get to all of them. So prioritize the things that you do want to do earlier on, get to those things, and that way you can be okay with your trip.
And you can't do those things. You just have to like make sure you put a lot of breaks in there and plan by adding the breaks. If there's certain things you want to see, like be realistic about. Maybe you're not going to see 20 things, but, you know, you're going to see the best 10 and include, you know, break times and accommodations for your kids.
Cool. I have a couple of questions because I think we're going to be able to share some of this, but I want to ask you guys first. How has traveling tested and strengthened your relationship?
Oh, yeah. They always say, like, you need to, like, travel together. And you need to build IKEA furniture before, like, to see if your relationship can stand it. Yes. And so I remember like being in Paris and like nothing was in English there, nothing at all. Like, and so we literally had to figure it out. And if you ask somebody, they're not going to talk to you in English, even if they know it. They're not going to. They're going to talk to you in French, and you're just going to. I mean, we don't understand it, right? So we had to figure it out on our own. So we would get a little frustrated with each other for a little bit, like, well, you said we were going this way on the metro.
I don't know French.
Like, but we figured it out fast. And I mean, yes, we would get a little frustrated here and there because like we would get off on the wrong one or, you know.
So they would have like little maps of routes, but all of it is in French. I'm over here, le métro, like we're like le métro, le pavillon. Like I'm over here like trying to figure out like, so like another thing that helped was like the translator thing. Like I was trying to translate a lot of the things while I was trying to like talk French too, even if they responded. I don't know what the heck they said, but I know whenever we're ordering food, there's a place we walked into and they didn't speak English. So I'm over here like we wanted that because we were hungry. And like I immediately Googled like, and I had it repeat it back to me so I know how to say it to them. So I said it, and he asked me a question. Don't ask me what he asked because I don't know. I couldn't respond. Like I was like, you asked him the question and he responded back, and then we were like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what he's saying.
Go with it.
But I think he asked like he was closing or something from what I understood from it. But we ended up eating there or whatever. So I mean the language, depending on what country you go to as well, like you got to be okay trying to figure that out as well, like using Google Translate and trying to communicate.
Yeah, there's technology has gotten so much more advanced lately that even now with the Apple Translate app, you can take a picture and it'll literally translate it for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was
that.
translating
Because they didn't have
something.
A menu. We were translating a menu
Wow.
Yeah,
to Spanish, from English to Spanish.
and
for
it
some
was
friends.
like on point. It was pretty cool.
Yes.
But between us, what has tested? Do you feel like our relationship has been tested and strengthened by traveling together?
Absolutely.
Please give it to me, because all I know is that we've had great times.
No, it's been all of our trips have been very great and successful. But I get very impatient. So I think, I know, for example, like directions, like, getting there, not missing the exit, like that whole ordeal there, right? I oftentimes will be the passenger, but I act like I'm the driver, and I just have to differentiate the two and just be patient and let the driver do the driving. I also I get very upset when things don't, and it's not like a plan, but it's like if a transaction, like if the flight doesn't leave on time or something happened with the reservation to like the rental car, it really gets me going in the moment, because it's like, you guys have no idea. I took off all this time and I came all the way over here and now I'm dealing with this. And it just, I just think that that's my time away. So I value it so much. And so thankfully I have Franco there to just calm me down so that, I just think before I speak and just kind of relax and we figure it out. And there's a solution to everything, honestly. So I would think that's those are the things that I see have tested us, but we've always been able to work through it. And we're both big proponents of we're going to make the best of this.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have that mentality, everything works out really well.
Absolutely. Even when you just transfer $100 over to the credit card.
Thank goodness for friends and for other methods of transferring payment, because, it happens.
Excellent. You guys have any extra tips or anything you want to share?
I do actually. So I wouldn't say so much a tip, but just something to take into consideration. When you're traveling, I think it's always good to keep in mind that you are visiting someone else's homeland, right? And so a lot of times, I think when you're the traveler, you're trying to cater everything to you because that's your trip, right? And that's important. But also just having that understanding of where you're going and what you're going to be doing and what those activities entail is so important. For example, I remember when I went to Milan and I wanted to go see one of the cathedrals that they have there. It's beautiful. There is a dress code to walk into the cathedral, and they will not let you in if you don't adhere to the dress code. So even though, I may not be there, you don't have to be there for a spiritual reason. You can be there simply, as a, just a traveler, but you still have to adhere to the rules. And if you don't know that, and you showed up and you drove, not drove, but let's say you took the train, a 2-hour train to get there, you missed out on something simply because, you didn't look into the details of where you were going. Also, if you have if you try to get a little bit of an understanding of just the basics, I try to learn the basics like restroom, yes, no, please, food, things that are important to me, right? And just jot them down or practice them before I get there. That's very helpful. Also, if you can get an understanding of the culture. So for example, in Italy, I knew that the culture was very welcoming and people there just really enjoy having visitors. So they're big hosts, they love that. So kind of having that in mind, I understood, okay, this is a place to that I can ask for information. They're going to be very willing to help, don't ask people for their secret recipes to their foods because those are very secret. But the people are just so willing to share about their culture and their home and where they grew up, and just if you learn about a specific area and that, people are just very open there, then you kind of unlock other features about it. Italy is definitely a place where you can just talk to someone, just a person that lives there, and they will give you all the information you need to know. No need to pay necessarily for like a travel guide and, buy that travel book. You can learn a lot from just like the locals. And if you go to a different place, it may not be common or suitable for you to just walk up to someone and say, "Excuse me, can you give me directions to so and so?" That may not be common. So if you have a little bit of just a general knowledge of where you're going, it goes a long way. It saves you a lot of trouble, and it kind of like makes your trip a little bit more enjoyable, I think.
Great. Well, if you guys have any tips for us, feel free to email to cafechismedfw@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to share that in a future episode. Thank you guys so much for listening along, and we'll see you next time.
If you would like to get in touch with the Café y Chisme crew and have them talk about topics you're interested in, reach out via email to cafeychismedfw@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at cafeychismedfw. Links in the description. Thanks for tuning in.